All right, so this is the overview. And so we're going to preview the end of year three data collection. So we have this nice fancy slide Kyron's made, and it's kind of a academic year map of all the data collected in CalPads. Feel like we have one wrong date on here, so just ignore it if you see it. So what I like to point out is you have end of year, right? And generally end of year, fall one looks long, right? We think it's long. End of year is our longest submission, right? Because fall two ends in February, the beginning of March. You could literally submit data until August, right? So end of year is the most time. So although you have four different submissions, right? So you're going to have one, two, possibly one if you're or 9 through 12, but you have at least two other submissions to go with end of year three. You do have a long period of time. And so we always encourage you to start. This is kind of why it's emphasized. It says gap. It's misleading. We want you to be productive in this gap, which is currently ongoing, right? We're still in that gap period. This end of year submission is the start of the snapshots. And so May 6th is when you can review reports. And so the trick is there's nothing to review on May 6th if you haven't submitted any data. And so we try to encourage you all to submit data now in advance of May 6th. Even if it's an incomplete data set, you could at least see if you are going to have problems with your submission, if you have reoccurring errors, if you're having missing data, right? Even if you're just going to overwrite a status record because your student has 30 more days of school, if you're missing data, if your independent study isn't coded correctly or what have you, you can identify that now, even though you're going to submit another full replacement file later. So we use this slide to kind of encourage everyone to make use of the time. Hopefully everyone understands you don't need a snapshot or revision to submit data. And so we'll talk more about that, I guess, as we go. And then we have our deadlines, right? And so moving on, here are the key dates. The snapshot starts on May 6th. That just means you have access to your reports. With data discrepancies, you don't have to wait for your errors, right? You submit data, you can review those data discrepancies right now, currently. Now, this is a target date, 2 weeks before the deadline, roughly. We find we've been doing this for about the last couple years, and it's made it easier. LEAs have really worked hard to have zero errors by this target date and have been able to certify well in advance of the close of the amendment window. I mean, we're getting like over 90% certification on this initial deadline, and it just makes it easier. Less people scrambling. Those of you who have been doing CalPATS for a long time can remember how working on the deadline week used to be so troublesome, right? The system would be so congested and move so slow. With people certifying, it's not nearly as bad, right? You're not having to fight and compete with everyone for limited system functionality. And so, you want to be error free by July 11th. You want to certify by the end of July. And then if you have, your reports are reviewed, somebody comes back, you make slight adjustments for August 8th. The one thing we do want to point out, end of year 1 through 4 have to be certified on August 8th. But if you have grades 9 through 12, your cohort count is still due on the 15th. And so if you have summer school students trying to graduate, you still have that last week before they pull the cohort data. And they do this because the data collections, end of year 1 through 4, you're certifying reports. But the cohort, they're actually pulling the data and making the report. So it's a little bit different. And so they don't need you to say this is accurate. They're just going to take your data and you got to hope it's accurate, right? You have to be diligent and review your cohort reports, make sure the data in CalPADS ODS is correct. So the end of year three data collection is behavioral incidents, student absenteeism, cumulative enrollment, homeless program, reclassified fluent proficiency account, and then 1 year grads. And so we have this survival kit slide. It gives us an opportunity to review. So now that I can breathe again, I'm going to pull some of the resources, right? And so the CalPAD system documentation page on the CDE's web portal is where all the documents are except for the user manual. It's a great resource for end of year. The old data guide, you can see it hasn't been updated in 5 years. So while it's grossly outdated, it still is a great resource for the STAS and student discipline, which are major data collections at end of year 3. All right. So I will still refer you to the STAS. Even homeless program, part of end of year, is something that you could find information about in the data guide. Um, then, in addition to the requirements, the functionality, anything that changes in CalPads, you can see end of year 1 through 4 conversion of CVRs to data discrepancies. Our most recent flash is listed here. So if you sign up for the LEA listserv, you should be getting these flash messages in your inbox. Sometimes finding the old flash, you can come here and find it quickly, or you could check these for the latest information. And then your letters to superintendents, you get a longer list of these on the CalPads Communications Archive page. You get older flash messages. You get historical letters to the superintendents. There's one about discipline that's pretty informational. So, you know, a lot of information, get a lot of background information. And sometimes when you submit a service ticket or if I get an email, these are the resources that I often use. So, I'm not just making stuff up. And then we have, the CSIS YouTube training channel. In addition to the Bridge LMS, we have all our videos here. We have some long form, some short form videos. We're building out the certification error videos as they've changed to DDs. We need to update those. But the end of year data population training videos will tell you what's required, for the STAS data population or the incident data population, right? And so if you're new, these are videos you would like to check out. And if you're waiting for reporting certification videos, videos from last year are still here. And we have increased our turnaround time. So I feel confident in saying that we get videos up in 2 weeks or less now. We, of course, try to be a little bit faster than that, but I don't want to oversell you guys. You know what I mean? I don't want to say, yeah, we'll have it done in 2 days, you know. So it's not going to be that fast, but within 2 weeks, I think it's timely. And the only thing that's changed in that process is we actually help Marshall now. We used to just say, Marshall, you do it. And then it's funny because that literally was what my thought process was. Marshall, you do it. And then we have end of year roadmap. This user manual is like Kyron's baby. He doesn't allow us to do anything. Slyman and myself have tried to help, and he smacks our hand. You get a toddler, and you be like, no, that's Kyron's attitude of this. He does a great job. He doesn't want us to mess it up. So I don't blame him. Actually, I really don't want to do the work either. But I will point you to it because, again, this is probably the single best resource because Kyron is in charge of it pretty much. He can add. And so if you remember the old Word document user manual, it was just functionality. Kyron has added everything he thinks is useful to the LEAs. And so it's a tremendous resource. It's a collection. It's the best repository for CalPads. So if you need information, I say start here. And if you're new, did I skip the checklist? Here you go. You have the end of year submission checklist. We talked about this in the primer, and we'll just open it up real quick and give you a glance. It details all the activities you need to complete a submission. It even has preparation, right? And so we're right now in the preparation phase, right? The data collection, or at least the revisions, start on May 6th. So here are activities. So if you're new and you're like, I don't know what I'm gonna do, they just threw CalPads on me, open the checklist and look at the tasks. You could literally form a question and submit a ticket. Like, how do I make sure all students have an enrollment record, right? I don't know what that means. I'm just submit a ticket to get someone to talk to me. And then you have your specific end of year 3 tasks here. And this will help you make sure that you don't miss any steps when you certify. He even lists the key reports to review. So this is a great resource. You see flash messages. There's going to be links to trainings at the bottom. It grows, right? It gets larger every year because it's a repository, right? Things change. There's new information, but the end of year reporting roadmap is great. So these are the most useful resources for Innovier. And you could always submit questions directly to Slyman and Marshall. Use their brain. Their brains are great resources as well. There are senior trainers. They've been doing this the longest.
You have completed this module. Please continue to the next video. Thank you.